Hello, my name's Adrian Wills. I'm Head of Communications here at Cycling UK. At the beginning of September, our AGM will be taking a vote on some transformation plans for your membership, which are vital for the way the charity operates going forward into the future. To discuss the changes, I'm delighted to be joined by our Membership Director, Nicola Marshall.
Hello.
And our Head of Campaigns, Duncan Dollimore.
Hello.
So Nicola, I wanted to start with you. Perhaps you could begin by reminding us what it is exactly you're proposing.
Well, thanks, Adrian. If I could first start by telling a little bit more about myself. So I joined Cycling UK at the beginning of last year. I've always been a really keen cyclist, but got really passionate about it in the last few years, which is why I was so delighted to join the organisation. And my role covers a couple of things. Firstly, it's looking after our amazing members and leading on some of the changes we're going to talk about today. And secondly, it's diversifying some of the support we get to get more support from trust foundations, companies and philanthropists. And one of the things that I was tasked with when I started by the trustees was really growing our membership base. And what they want me to do is reach 100,000 members and supporters over the next few years. That's quite a transformation and quite a big step change from where we are. Membership has grown over the last few years, but quite slowly. And so the first thing I did was a big review of membership, and that's led to the three types of changes we're proposing today. The first is to improve the benefits that we offer to members, and that's in a range of ways, particularly around insurance and some of the retailer discounts. The second is to change the way that we communicate information to members and inspire them about things that are really interesting to them, whether that's cycle touring in Europe that I'm just getting into myself, mountain biking, or perhaps cycling with the family and the children. And the third is to change our membership fee structure. That's both to make it fairer and to ensure our funding, future sustainable funding for the organisation, so we can support much of the great work we do as a charity.
That's really interesting, Nicola. Thanks for that. And I want to come back and pick up on those points individually in a moment. But Duncan, just turning to you for a second, you're Head of Campaigns. Nicola says she wants to grow the membership. Why is that so important for you and your work?
Well, for the campaigns and policy teams, it's the support of members that's integral to everything we do. We couldn't have the influence we have without that support. And it's really interesting, there's an example of that now. The government's just launched a consultation on the highway code. It's a classic example of the work that our members do to support our campaigns. That's not just come about by magic. That's come about because 2 years ago the government had a consultation on cycling safety, and 12,000 of our members supported what we were saying then about changing the highway code. Now, sometimes these things take longer to come out in the wash than we would like, but it's that consistent support over the years by members for our campaigning and policy work that really enables us as a team to do the work that we do, because we need to reflect the fact that we don't actually make any money as campaigning and policy teams. We're entirely dependent on membership support for our very existence. And for us, quite often the question is not what we do, but what we don't do and what we can't do. Because I'm contacted regularly by members who say, well, can you campaign on this? Can we do a bit more about bikes on trains? What about public transport? The difficult thing we have as a team is actually saying we can't do that because we're already doing X and Y. So for us, it's membership, the size of membership and the support from membership that dictates how much we can do with membership support to do all the things we want to do to make cycling better for everybody and get more people cycling, which is what the business of Cycling UK really is.
Thanks, Duncan. That's a really interesting insight, actually. Nicola, let's come back to you then. Can you talk through these proposed changes then in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. So the first set of changes is around improving the membership benefits that members get. And we know from the surveys we did last year that our benefits are really popular, but there's a couple of key areas we can improve. The first is around insurance, and what we want to do over the autumn and winter is a big review of all our insurance provision to make sure we're getting the best possible deal and cover for members. But in the interim, we're bringing in 1 month's free bike insurance up to a value of £15,000 of bikes, and then after that a 25% discount for the remainder of the year. and we think that's a good start and something we think will resonate with members and potential new members. Secondly, we want to improve the discounts that members get. We've already done a bit of that this year, so we've brought in discounts with Freewheel and with the Discount Cycle Network, which actually opens up a whole other set of discounts. And we want to again bring more of that in over the autumn-winter. We had planned to do that earlier in the year, but as everyone will know by now, the cycle trade is incredibly busy and haven't been able to bring in some of the discounts now that we were planning. So that's the first set of changes, is improving membership. The second set is really communicating to people about the things they're interested in. We've got a bit of a one-size-fits-all at the moment. Again, we know the magazine, which your team produced, Adrian, is brilliant and people really love it. But what we want to do is to bring people in that are interested in different types of things: cycle touring, road cycling, mountain biking, or cycling with children and families, and then give them the information and advice and stories and inspiration that's relevant to them. And really that brings us in line with lots of organisations now. If you sign up to a charity or a company, you expect to get information and advice that's relevant to you. And thirdly, we're proposing to change the membership fee structure to make it fairer and more accessible, and also to really secure the financial future of the organisation, which, as Duncan said, it's really important that we're able to get the funding and fees from membership to support all the amazing work we do to make cycling better for everyone.
Okay, you mentioned earlier that this followed a full review of the membership. Tell us exactly, what did you do?
So it was in two parts. The first part was a really big survey. We sent that to half of all the members we have an email address for, which is about 20,000 people. And I think your team actually sent the other half a survey all about our charitable messaging. And so of that, we had 4,000 people respond, which is a great response rate and gives us real confidence in everything that they told us. And we also asked 1,200 people who are regular cyclists but not members to complete the same survey. And that's really important because, of course, if we want to grow our membership, we need to ask questions not just of members but of people that might become members. And the second part of what we did was looked at lots of other membership organisations. So the RSPB, National Trust, Wildlife Trust, Canal and Riverside Trust, lots of different organisations, because we wanted to see what their membership structure was and make sure that ours is in line really with the rest of the sector. And really, I think those two reviews told us four things. The first was that members and people that might become members really value our charitable activities, and without any favouritism at all to Duncan, particularly our campaigning and lobbying work, which is making cycling better for everyone. The second is that people really value the benefits, and we were really encouraged by this because it means we've pretty much got the mix about right. As I said though, we really could improve insurance and retailer discounts that really are popular with people. The third thing that we discovered is that many people, in fact the majority of people, thought that the main adult rate offered really good value for the benefits we have, and actually on average most people would be prepared to pay more, interestingly, than the current adult rate. And then fourthly, we realised that our structure around fees and the membership fees is actually now quite out of kilter with most other membership charities, and that's because most of them have moved to what we're trying to do with the concessionary rate. And so all of those findings is what then has led to the proposals we're talking about today.
That's great. Sounds like a lot of work then's gone in to really assess where we are with membership. Now, it's not a great surprise that we've had a lot of feedback already from members about the proposed changes to the fees in particular, and particularly the changes to the fees around the age-related concession that is currently in place, which we want to change to a fairer ability to pay concession. Nicola, can you just explain your thinking behind that proposal?
Yeah, Adrian, and of course we've put a huge amount of thought into this and discussed it a lot with the trustees over the last year or so. So I guess three key reasons really that we've decided to propose this change. The first is simply to make it fairer. A concession, I guess by its name, is something that a charity or an organisation can choose to give out to people. And what we want to do is focus that concession to provide an opportunity for people that might struggle to pay the full adult rate to still be able to join. In order to be able to do that, it does mean we'll be removing the rate automatically for people who reach the age of 65. You know, I'm really lucky over the last year. I've got to speak to lots of our amazing senior members, many of whom with us have been for many years and carried out lots of the campaigning and other work that Duncan's talked about, as well as volunteering and running holidays or rides every week. We want to support them to stay with us, and we can perhaps talk a little bit later about the ways we're going to do that. The second reason is that it will bring us much more in line with other charities, for example, RSPB, Canal and Riverside Trust, the Wildlife Trust, which have made this move over the last few years as well. And the third reason is that we need to really ensure the future financial stability and sustainability of the organisation. It's amazing we have so many senior members, around 17,000 annual senior members, and they're all currently paying 40% less than people paying the full adult rate. And over time, we're just worried about what that means in terms of our financial stability over the next few years. And that's another really key reason we want to make the changes so we can continue to support the work that we do as a charity.
So this isn't just a case of trying to squeeze more money out of members for the sake of it?
No, it's about fairness and it's about funding everything we do.
Okay, Duncan, I want to come back to you at this point because I think it's really important to understand the impact these changes that we're proposing will have on the charity. Now, you've talked to us about the importance of the membership on the campaigning that you do, but what about for the rest of the charity?
When I explain to people what Cycling UK does as an organisation, I'm always struck by the varied activities that we do. And as well as the campaigning and lobbying work, we've got members and clubs doing over 13,000 organised rides every year. And that depends on the effort and work of volunteers. And we've got volunteers from volunteer campaigners to ride leaders, but they need a support network. And we've got a fantastic volunteering team at Cycling UK that Alex leads with, which is providing that volunteer support to enable more people to help us to do more. And that's the sort of activity that can only really function and work if we have the membership supporting those things. And it's not just the volunteering activities. We've just had in the last couple of months both the Women's Festival of Cycling and Bike Week, which are all about encouraging, enabling, getting more people cycling, getting a more diverse group of people cycling, and that requires the support and actions and activities of members to do those things so that we can progress our charitable purpose. And when we start talking about that immediately links into the issue of our behaviour change work, which is those activities working with groups and individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds sometimes to get that more mainstream, diverse group of people cycling. We've all benefited from the joy and gift of cycling. I first started at 13 years old cycling with Bury Cyclist Touring Club in Lancashire. But what we really need to do as an organisation is enable other people to experience that gift of cycling that we've all benefited from. And that's what these changes are really designed to achieve.
I think that's a really important point to understand, isn't it? Thank you, Duncan. You know, the membership, it not only gives us that loud voice for campaigning, but it's about funding so many other aspects of what we do. And just looking at my area of the charity and the communication side of things, the magazine, it's about getting the cycling into the news. It's about running our social media platforms on our website. So I think it's sometimes easy to forget that membership is so vital for those aspects. But I wanted to just now look a little bit more in depth at the concessionary rates that you're suggesting, Nicola. We've had a lot of questions in about this. So tell us, what is the criteria?
So 3 key parts to the criteria. The first one is that you receive any means tested benefits, and we've included a link in the FAQs, and I'd really encourage people, we've put lots of work into the FAQs and we're going to constantly be updating them, so there's a link in there to means tested benefits. The second is that you're disabled or a carer, and again a little bit more information about that in the FAQs. And the third is that your sole income is from the state pension. And by that, we are trying to recognise that if you are older and your sole income is the state pension, you're likely to be on a lower income and struggle to pay the full rate.
So is it means tested?
We're not doing any means testing or checking ourselves as an organisation, so it's an honesty-based system. However, we would remind people that if they did need to make a claim against the third-party liability insurance, then our insurers, Butterworth Spengler, would double check just to make sure that the membership is right.
Okay, and just to be clear then, the proposal is that there will no longer be an automatic senior discount based on age.
Yes, and of course we've thought really long and hard about this and discussed it a lot with the trustees and others, and we've really based it on that survey and the feedback that we did last year, which said that the majority of members, including senior members, thought that the current adult rate was a really reasonable and actually really good value for what we offer, and again to bring us in line with many other membership charities.
But isn't there a danger that our current senior members may not be able to afford to pay or might even leave?
Well, of course we want to support as many people as possible to stay with us. And the first thing to say is, of course, if they meet the concessionary criteria that I've just talked through, we will really support them to take advantage of that and to stay with us. But there are some other really good options for senior members, and actually, as you can imagine, we've been talking that through with people over the last couple of weeks. So firstly is the household membership. So if there's 2 seniors living together, that's a really cost-effective way of continuing to stay a member. The second is lifetime membership. We are slightly changing the calculation in November, but even then, and particularly now, it offers really good value for members. I chatted to someone last week, and actually it would have been £26 for him to stay with us as a lifetime member, which is of course great value. And finally, we're introducing for the first time this supporter option. That's based on lots of feedback actually over the last few years that members perhaps get a little bit older, aren't cycling anymore, but want to stay part of the charity and particularly still receive Cycle magazine, which everyone loves. And then so what they can do is donate a minimum of £2 per month, still receive the magazine, but not any of the other more benefits related to cycling, such as the insurance.
And certainly from my perspective, Adrian, in campaigns, it's absolutely vital that we retain those senior members. Many of them have been the lifeblood of our volunteer campaigning network over the years. They've been the Right to Ride representatives. They've been the people doing the consultation responses and the hard work of local campaigning to influence local authorities and other decision makers. And we couldn't have had the impact we have on campaigning without them. And it's not just those local campaigners, it's the people that have been integral to their groups and their club rides and organised events, organised rides, and have supported the organisation over many years. From a campaigns perspective, we want to grow the local campaigns network, but we don't want to do that by losing the best bits of it. So we need to retain those older members, the senior members, the people that have actually supported us over the years. So it's not a question of moving on and forgetting, it's a question of embracing them in the direction that we're travelling so they keep with us and remain on the ride.
So Nicola, I know you and your team have been really busy this week, manning the phones, answering emails, and I know you personally have been on the phones as well, talking directly to members. What have they been saying to you?
Well, it's been really interesting, and I've really enjoyed actually talking to so many members over the last couple of weeks. Many people have really supported the changes. They've had lots of questions, things about the concessionary rates and others that we've talked through today, but have supported the changes overall. Other people have been unhappy when we first started the conversation and the phone call with them, and that's particularly, and I do want to apologise, we've apologised to people in person on the phone, but there was a mistiming with Royal Mail, just because of everything else that's going on in the world at the moment, which meant the magazine for many people landed after a specific letter that we sent to some members to explain the changes to them, and so that letter obviously came as a bit of a shock. So apologies, really want to apologise to everyone again for that. But actually what's been interesting is once you have the chance to sit down and talk it through, and that's why we were so keen to do this video, because once you have the chance to talk it through and explain it in much more detail, most people have been really supportive of it.
So Nicola, what happens next? When do these proposed changes come into effect?
So the final vote is at the AGM on the 4th of September, but of course voting is open now, and we'd really encourage people to vote and to vote in favour of these changes. We need 50% of the people that vote to vote in favour of the changes for it to be passed. If it isn't passed, then obviously that will impact some of the things we're able to do next year, and we'll need to write to members and let them know what that means for us as an organisation.
Just on that, Adrian, it's perhaps worth reflecting on plans for next year. We've got, in the campaigning world, we've got elections to the Scottish Parliament, we've got elections to the Welsh Assembly, we've got elections across England, including 7 Metro mayoral elections. So we've got plans, hopefully, for campaigning around elections throughout Great Britain next year. And there's also huge opportunities given the recent announcements we've had and the commitments governments across the UK have made towards active travel. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say we've never had a better opportunity than we have now to influence cycling policy, particularly in the post-COVID world with people thinking about building back better and opportunities to do things differently. So it's fair to say we will never have a better opportunity to influence things than we have now. But what we do and how much we do is very linked to membership and the capacity that we have to do this work and the support that we can create and engender from our members, which is why these changes are so vitally important, particularly from my section of the organisation, but the organisation as a whole.
So Nicola, last words from you then. What's the single biggest reason members should vote for these changes?
Fairness. We think the new proposed fee structure will be fairer.
Duncan?
Well, I've been here 5 years at Cycling UK and nobody No member has ever asked me or suggested to me that we shouldn't do campaigning and lobbying. The question is normally, can we do more? Well, we can do more together with membership support, but we need to get these changes through to enable us to do that. That's why they're so important.
Thank you both very much indeed. Remember, the AGM this year is a virtual meeting for obvious reasons. You can find out much more about that, including how to vote, by going to our website, which is cyclinguk.org/AGM-2020. Thank you very much indeed for watching.